Do you still remember? In the earlier episodes of the animation, if an alien race wanted to reach Earth, they had to first pass through a wormhole into the solar system, and then take about 3 years of space travel to finally arrive. However, as Luo Feng's strength continued to grow, the enemies he encountered, whether from other human factions, the Zerg, or infiltrators from other races, were already far more powerful than the mastermind behind the second wave of the Earth crisis back then, Nualan Shan. So then, what level must these infiltrators reach to be able to bypass the spatial concealment secret technique set up by Huyen Bo to hide the coordinates of the solar system, just like the immortal level infiltrator Yao Hai did in episode 163? The answer is, at least Marquis Immortal level. The reason lies in the fact that Huyen Bo himself had only just barely reached the Marquis Immortal level, and his comprehension of the original law of space was still shallow. Therefore, his secret technique wasn't very secure in the eyes of a true Marquis Immortal powerhouse, as it could be broken easily. However, Yao Hai did not directly destroy the spatial concealment. That's because if the technique were to fail, the coordinates of the solar system would reappear, which would be equivalent to blatantly telling the virtual universe company that they were attempting to assassinate Luo Feng. To avoid alarming them, Yao Hai had no choice but to traverse the dark universe with his physical body, flying at the speed of light and relying on his acute spatial perception to approximate the location of the solar system. This method, compared to directly destroying the secret technique, takes much longer and is much more difficult. It's important to know that, according to the setting, flying 1 light-year in the dark universe is equivalent to crossing about 10.8 million light-years in the original universe. This means that traveling back and forth between the dark universe and the original universe, even a 1-second error can result in a deviation of about 1/3 of a light-year. Even more demanding is the condition that entering the dark universe requires the flyer to maintain at light speed. If the speed drops to 0, they are immediately ejected and return to the original universe. Therefore, in order to avoid being thrown out, Yao Hai appeared to be motionless, but in fact, he was spinning or circling at extremely high speed within a tiny space to continuously maintain a non-stationary state. This is an extreme test of spatial perception. Even a 1-second hesitation or slight misjudgment could cause him to miss the target area. After all, the spatial scope of the solar system is only about 1 light-year. But judging from the battle between Yao Hai and Sifan Qi, where Yao Hai held his ground for several rounds against someone who had mastered teleportation techniques, it's clear that Yao Hai's strength had already reached the peak level of a Marquis Immortal. For someone of his caliber, breaking through Huyen Bo's spatial concealment was naturally effortless. Have you ever wondered, since a Marquis Immortal can easily break through Huyen Bo's spatial concealment, why haven't the many Marquis Immortals within the Qianwu Universe Nation gone to the solar system to claim the treasures or legacy he left behind? In fact, the value of so-called treasures is often relative to a warrior's own strength. While relics can be precious, they only truly show their worth when inherited by someone of similar or lesser strength than the one who left them behind. Conversely, if the inheritor's strength far surpasses the original owner, the treasure becomes worthless, simply mere scraps. This was also the reason why, when Luo Feng was exploring the world of the world masters and news of the world within the world emerged, Mingyu was stirred while Man Luo showed no interest. Similarly, the legacy Huyen Bo left behind no longer held any appeal to truly powerful beings. As for the weaker ones, even if they were tempted, they lacked the ability to break the spatial concealment he set up. What's more, without the wormhole, they couldn't even reach the solar system. As a result, a strange situation arose where for tens of thousands of years, Huyen Bo's legacy remained untouched. Even to those with similar strength to him, the legacy still held some value, but unfortunately, their spatial perception was far inferior to that of a Marquis Immortal. They couldn't, like Yao Hai, precisely locate the solar system in a short time. Before the wormhole was discovered, the only feasible method was to search over long periods at sublight speed in the original universe. Such a journey would take at least several years, or at worst, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. After all, what Huyen Bo hid with his secret technique was not only the solar system itself, but also several surrounding star systems. To an exalted immortal level being, aimlessly spending tens of thousands of years just to pursue a batch of treasures whose value and quantity remain uncertain would be nothing short of a fool's dream. Thus, this inheritance that lay dormant for tens of thousands of years was ultimately passed down to Luo Feng under the workings of fate. In comparison, immortals at the king level who have mastered the teleportation technique are far more sensitive to space. They only need to reach a star system near the solar system and perform several consecutive teleportation to swiftly and precisely infiltrate the target area. Moreover, for a king immortal, teleporting across a distance of 1 light-year is hardly a challenge. Of course, not all King Immortals have mastered the teleportation technique. Take King Longju and King Yanju, are known as the King Nightmare Candle, for example. Among King Immortals, they are considered low tier, having barely stepped into the realm of King level. Though they bear the title of King Immortal, and their foundational power has reached 10,000 times the pinnacle world master level, they have yet to comprehend even one of the 3 supreme techniques of the original law of space. This highlights how vast and profound the original law of space truly is, which far beyond what lower-tier original laws can compare to. Such powerhouses may be considered part of the strong, yet they struggle to play a key role on the battlefield. And while they may not be seen as weak, their breakthrough into king-level immortal status still makes them stand out among the human race. As such, positions like guarding the Starfield scrapyard, roles that require frequent social dealings, don't allow for focused cultivation, but still demand a degree of deterrence, are best suited for individuals of their level. However, the true deterrent lies in the Universe Venerables or even Universe Overlords stationed within the Starfield scrapyard. It's worth mentioning that although King Longju and King Nightmare Candle are similar in realm, in terms of combat power, King Nightmare Candle can unleash strength equivalent to a peak King Immortal, which is 10 times stronger than King Longju. You may have noticed the mysterious marking resembling an eye on King Nightmare Candle's forehead. That mark is the key to his explosive power. In truth, it is the imprint left by a powerful treasure. Once activated, King Nightmare Candle can temporarily unleash a power far beyond his current level, strong enough to rival peak King Immortals. However, the price is steep, as forcing the activation of the treasure will inevitably trigger backlash, leaving him severely wounded. After all, not every treasure can function like the soldier-grade armor Luofoam obtained, which unleashing extraordinary power with no cost. The reason for this backlash lies in the fact that King Nightmare Candle lacks the strength to fully control the treasure. If it were wielded by his father, a powerful Universe Venerable, there would be no backlash at all. But because his father dotes on him excessively, he gave this powerful treasure to King Nightmare Candle in advance, hoping to boost his ability to survive. Compared to relying on a treasure for temporary explosive power, the foundation of one's realm is what truly matters. Take the Elder Si-Fan Chi of the Golden Horned race, for example. He possesses high-tier King Immortal strength, and his foundational power has surpassed 30,000 times that of a pinnacle world master. Even without burning his immortal divine power, a single strike is enough to severely wound a high-tier marquee immortal. More crucially, King Immortals of the high tier often have already mastered an aspect of a higher-tier original law. Elder Si-Fan Chi has mastered the teleportation technique and is well-versed in escape-type secret techniques. With the aid of teleportation, unless he faces overwhelming power, his survivability is nearly flawless. If not for Elder Si-Fan Chi's supreme mastery of escape, Luofoam might not have survived when the immortal-level Zerg Queen launched that terrifying assassination attempt. It's worth noting that an attack jointly executed by several thousand immortal-level beings is already enough to rival the might of a Universe Venerable. And when about 10,000 immortal-level Zerg warriors focus their power on a single point, the resulting energy blast is enough to instantly destroy and flatten a region of space spanning tens of millions of kilometers. The terror of such an assault is self-evident. Under a strike of that magnitude, even a peak King Immortal has little chance of survival, that is, only demise awaits. In fact, some extremely powerful peak space beasts, even at just the pinnacle world master level, can erupt with combat power comparable to that of high-tier level King Immortals. For such beings, being able to use teleportation even while still at the world master stage is not surprising. After all, teleportation is not an exclusive divine ability of King Immortals, rather, it is a manifestation of deep comprehension of the original law of space. Take for example Kodi, the most gifted disciple of the primal Chaos City leader who, at the world master level, had already reached a near universe venerable level understanding of the original law of space. For someone like him, not mastering teleportation would actually be more illogical. However, extraordinary talent often comes with great risks. The more dazzling a genius is, the more likely they are to attract envy and murderous intent. Especially among hostile races, who will stop at nothing to eliminate such geniuses before they can truly rise. After all, with their potential, they could one day grow into existences on par with the primal Chaos City leader. If that happens, it would not only shift the balance of power but also trigger a redistribution of resources, even directly threatening territories originally belonging to enemy races were something they can never tolerate. This is also the fundamental reason why Luofoam has encountered multiple assassination attempts. Fortunately, although his current cultivation talent is not as astonishing as Kodi's, he possesses survival methods far superior to other geniuses. For cultivators who have yet to reach the pinnacle, strength is important, but wisdom and survival strategies are even more crucial. Otherwise, if one falls in the dark corners of history before rising, that so-called genius becomes nothing more than an unnoticed footnote. In the previous video evaluating the strength of the golden horned beast, you might have wondered, does the destruction beast trapped within the golden horns race also possess immortal level strength? In truth, among space beasts with peak bloodlines, even those at the same pinnacle world master stage can have vast differences in strength. Ordinary space beasts, even when reaching the peak of world master level, may have strength equal to ordinary immortals, but when facing the law domains of true immortal level warriors, they are often completely suppressed and forced to flee. However, those space beasts with outstanding talent, abundant resources, or great fortune may possess combat power at the pinnacle world master stage that rivals even human marquee immortals or high-tier level king immortals. This highlights just how vast the disparity is among space beasts. Moreover, for a peak bloodline space beast to break through to immortality, their comprehension of upper laws must at least reach the level of a king immortal. Hence, for truly powerful space beasts, mastering high-level divine powers like spatial strangulation or time dilation at the pinnacle world master stage is completely normal. According to Bei Chuang's account, once the imprisoned destruction beast unleashes time freeze, it can render any immortal and below opponent completely powerless. This suggests that it already possesses the strength of a marquee immortal. You might recall that I once mentioned, even if a world master has comprehended laws on par with a marquee immortal, without special weapons or strong amplification techniques, they still cannot slay an immortal, because they lack divine power and cannot truly annihilate an immortal's divine body. But the destruction beast is an exception. As favored by the original law of time, not only has it mastered the innate secret technique time freeze, but if it fully comprehends the branch law of light under the original law of time, it could slay ordinary immortals even without special weapons. This is because the original law of light has purifying properties, and when combined with time laws, it can accelerate the purification and even annihilation of an immortal's divine power. If an enemy's recovery rate cannot outpace the purification rate, their demise becomes inevitable. This is also why the Time World Master Luo was willing to take the risk and split his focus to cultivate the original law of time. Sadly, until his death, he never managed to take that critical step forward. Because the internal worlds of space beasts are at least 1,000 times larger than those of ordinary beings, they are granted immensely powerful world projections which often capable of crushing human warriors of the same level, or even killing stronger opponents across levels. However, this massive internal world also implies an extremely tough life core, which is precisely why they find it even harder than humans to break through their shackles and achieve immortality. This also explains why some extremely powerful space beasts, even after mastering a profound of a higher level original law, still struggle to break through to immortality. Often, only when their law comprehension rivals that of peak king immortals do they stand a chance of success. Such existences are incredibly rare across the vast universe. A so-called peak king immortal has base strength approaching 100,000 times that of a pinnacle world master, and they comprehend the profundities of two high-level original laws. With a casual strike which even without burning immortal divine power, they can easily erase a high-level marquee immortal. King Illusion Spirit is exactly such an existence. You may have wondered, what's the connection between illusion attacks and the comprehension of original laws? In fact, as a warrior deepens their understanding of original laws, their willpower is also enhanced under the influence of the universe's origin will. This grants them a certain resistance to ordinary illusions, preventing them from falling into illusionary traps so easily. For instance, in the virtual universe, which perfectly simulates the real world, ordinary people find it hard to distinguish between virtual and real, some even become lost forever. But once someone reaches the universe level, even if they immerse themselves in the virtual universe for extended periods, they can still immediately see through the difference between illusion and reality. It is precisely because of this that the path of the illusionist is extremely difficult to master. If the illusions cast fail to incorporate the power of the original law, they are hardly able to deceive other powerful beings unless the opponent's willpower is exceptionally weak. However, once illusions are infused with the power of the original law, their might becomes entirely different. The reason lies in their ability to blur the line between reality and illusion, disturb perception, strike directly at emotions, and lure the mind into a state of immersion. If one's willpower is not firm enough, they will become fully trapped in the illusion and lose their sense of self, eventually leading to their demise. The King Illusion Spirit is someone who has achieved great mastery on this path. Although she only possesses peak King Immortal strength, she commands over 80 immortal-level soul slaves, placing her status in the universe on par with that of King Jinyan. At first glance, it might seem that illusion techniques are even more powerful than the virtual universe, but this is not actually the case. The reason users can stay within the virtual universe for long periods without facing mortal danger is precisely because the virtual universe does not actively launch illusion attacks or intentionally mislead users. However, its perfectly accurate simulation of reality is enough to deceive ordinary people or even low-level warriors with weak willpower, which making it difficult to distinguish real from fake, thus causing them to become addicted and gradually lose themselves. This illustrates the virtual universe's incredible depth in simulation, far beyond what ordinary people can imagine. Although immortal beings like the King Illusion Spirit are rated as peak King Immortals, they still cannot be considered true peaks within the immortal rank. Above them exists an even stronger class limit of King Immortals. Strictly speaking, there is almost no difference in base strength between peak King Immortals and limit King Immortals, as both can reach nearly 100,000 times the power of a pinnacle world master, and this is the upper limit of base power a King Immortal can achieve. However, the reason limit King Immortals are stronger lies in their almost complete mastery of all three profound secrets of spatial techniques, granting them more mysterious and unpredictable methods of attack and vastly superior combat power. By burning no more than 10% of their divine power, they can easily slay a peak King Immortal, with their overall strength often exceeding the latter tenfold. It's worth mentioning that under the command of the Venerable Nine Swords are more than 50 King Immortals, among whom King Longyu is at this level of power and is the strongest of them. With the aid of certain divine power amplitude techniques, she can erupt with hundreds of thousands of times the power of a pinnacle world master in one go, where her combat power has already neared the level of the invincible King Immortal. However, to break through further, one must fully comprehend and fuse all the profound mysteries of the three original laws of space and truly understand the complete path of the original law of space. Otherwise, even at the limit, one can no longer make progress. Of course, in the vast universe, there are still a few special powerhouses, for example, King Jinyan. They either follow the path of fusing two types of laws, or rely on unique racial talents and secret techniques to break through the 100,000 times limit of base power, reaching the level of 1 million times the power of a pinnacle world master, thus stepping into the invincible King Immortal realm, with combat power even approaching that of elementary universe venerables. The reason they are called invincible is because the amplitude techniques they possess are extremely rare and often closely tied to their racial talents, were techniques that ordinary warriors cannot learn. You might wonder, since divine power amplitude techniques were just mentioned, why is it said that not every King Immortal can master them? In fact, so-called divine power amplitude techniques are essentially skills that burn divine power more efficiently. As long as one has enough resources, they can be purchased within the virtual universe to enhance the explosive effect of burning divine power during battle. In other words, as long as one has sufficient divine power and decent comprehension, most warriors can use such techniques. However, these types of techniques ultimately cannot help a warrior break through their limits or step into the invincible realm. True breakthroughs must come from amplifying the base power or spiritual energy, and these transformative techniques almost always come from non-transmittable racial secrets, mysterious inheritances, or are closely tied to the individual's physical structure, making successful cultivation of such techniques extremely rare. Take the golden horned beast as an example. Its innate secret technique, enhancement, is a power granted by the original universe where it is inborn and requires no learning. Meanwhile, its special technique, deity of the world, is based on its unique physique and evolves through constant metal consumption. It is an extremely rare type of amplitude technique. Even though Luo Feng's golden horned beast can use this technique, his human clone cannot cultivate it at all. As for amplitude secret techniques related to spiritual energy, they are even rarer, virtually 1 in a million. Take Luo Feng for example. He accidentally acquired the Divine General's legacy within Demon Mountain, but its cultivation is extremely difficult, with an astonishingly high entry threshold. At the time, although Luo Feng was only at the universe level, he possessed a willpower comparable to that of a pinnacle world master. It was only because of this that he was able to successfully inherit it. Many immortal-level powerhouses, in this regard, fall far short of him. It is precisely because of this that the Divine General's legacy granted Luo Feng an astonishing over 3,000-fold spiritual energy amplitude, far surpassing most King Immortals. To put it into perspective, among King Immortals, those who can achieve even 1,000-fold amplitude are already considered incredibly rare. You might wonder, since the Divine General's legacy is so powerful, why doesn't King Jinyan try to cultivate it? Given that he has already reached the invincible king level, Wouldn't this legacy help him break through and step into the rank of universe venerable? The answer is, he cannot. The reason is simple: at his level, what he lacks is no longer Amplitude-type secret techniques, but rather a deep understanding of the original laws. Unless he obtains a special legacy directly related to law comprehension, he can only rely on his own comprehension to grasp the complete original law of space. While the Divine General's legacy is indeed powerful, it still fundamentally belongs to the Amplitude-type techniques of the Spirit Master System. Its ultimate ceiling is merely pushing a King Immortal to the invincible King level. For someone like King Jinyan, who has already stepped into that realm, its usefulness is extremely limited. More importantly, King Jinyan cultivates along the path of genetic warriors, not spirit masters. For an invincible king-level warrior to start over and cultivate an entirely different system like spiritual energy would be abandoning his roots for the branches. It would be not only a waste of time but also nothing more than wishful thinking. Even so, King Jinyan remains the immortal-level powerhouse currently known to be closest to the universe-venerable realm. His comprehensive strength is truly at the pinnacle. Of course, beyond the Immortals, even more awe-inspiring beings exist. In the next video, I'll reveal them one by one, who are the true peak beings of the universe. Stay tuned. Well, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching this video. Wish you a wonderful day.